Hello guys, welcome to my channel again. Thank you. So today we're going to be sewing a basic bodice top with lining. So last week we did the pattern and today we'll be sewing the basic bodice top. So yeah, you lay down the main fabric and you lay the lining on top. If you're using a stretchy fabric, please endeavor to also use a stretch lining to sew, okay? So, and if you're using a fabric that does not have stretch, then of course you use a lining that does not have stretch to it, stretch to it. So now we'll go ahead and we'll sew down the neck. After we're done sewing, we're going to notch the neck. After notching, we'll top stitch on the part of the lining, making sure to push the stuff to the other side. Now we go ahead to pin the side of the front piece. If you remember, on the pattern we did what we call the bust darts. So now I'm transferring the marking on the bust darts onto the garments. Remember, I was on the bustier line. We drew like 5-6 inches inward depending on the pattern. So please refer to the pattern so you know exactly what to mark there. Whatever is on the pattern, please mark it on the two sides, and then we sew them down as that. Now if you notice, I also pinned the bottom of the darts, pinning it, and that's because when you're sewing lace, and especially the fact that it's stretchy, when you're sewing your darts, if you're not careful, there's a tendency at the end to sew just the fabric you're sewing on and not picking the fabric underneath. So that's why I pin that point down also. Please take note of that, okay? Yeah. So now I'll be moving on to the back pattern. Yes, so at the back of the neck, this is optional. If you don't want to leave a zipper or a button opening, then no need to slit that part. So I slit the back with 3-4 inches. That's slitting the main fabric. Also you slit the lining. So now I went ahead to pin the lining to the main piece, and at that V point, the end of the slit, I also pin that point down so that it's secure. Not that when we're sewing, the lining will go below the actual V point of the fabric. So yes, now you go ahead to sew. All along I've been sewing with a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So please take note of that. If you also want to sew with 0.25 inches sewing allowance, that's also acceptable. So I sewed my edge of the slit with a V, but you can also sew with a square. If you sew it a square, you notch on both parts at both corners. Here that I sewed with a V, I notched the middle of the V so that when we are turning, it will be easy for the fabric will lay flat when turning. Okay, so I went ahead to notch the sewing and also go ahead to top stitch on the lining, making sure you push the sewing towards the lining. And try as much as possible to top stitch as it will let you top stitch, because at that point it's going to be, you'll be struggling, but top stitch as much as you can. It's okay however far you can go. Okay, yeah, so I'm repeating the same thing on the other side of the neck. Now it's time to do the sleeve. Remember we left a 1 inch sewing allowance, so you double fold. If you have a weaving machine, you can just weave it once and then fold with 1 inch. If not, you just double fold the edges, fold once and then fold second again with 1/2 inch. That amounts to 1 inch. Okay, so now we're going ahead to fold our sleeve into 2 and sewing with 1/2 inch sewing allowance, because that's the allowance we're left. I'm doing the same thing for the other sleeve. And yeah, at this point also, if you have a weaving machine, a serger, please go ahead and weave. So now I iron pressed my garment off camera. Please do endeavor to press your garment at every point. Yeah, whenever you're done sewing a particular garment, please endeavor to iron it. So now we're turning the neck of the shoulder. We place the front on top of the back piece and lift the lining of the back piece onto the fabric. So now the whole 4 of them are secured together. You can go ahead and use a pin to pin it down, please. So now we're also sewing the shoulder with a joining of with a sewing allowance of 1/2 inch. So balance all the pieces together, make sure they are equal and even, and then sew it down. Okay, so now by the time we turn, you see that we're going to have a neat shoulder finishing. Please always endeavor to cut your threads at the beginning and the ending so you have clean work. Okay, you see how beautiful and neat it is? Yes, covered well. Yeah, so go ahead and do this for the other side also, the other shoulder also. So yeah, now we'll be going on to, yes, do it for the shoulder. Yeah, the back to the front. Okay, so and then now we'll be going on to join our fabric, the front and back, both the actual material and the lining together. Yes, and then sew it down with a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. If you decide to leave a 1 inch sewing allowance on your pattern when making your pattern, then you'll be sewing with a 1 inch. Otherwise, you sew with half. Whatever inch sewing allowance you left, you sew down with that allowance. If you have a center, please go ahead and set like I did. But if not, right, no problem. Okay. And especially if it's for your own personal use, then you're good to go. So now we'll be inserting the sleeve. We'll turn the sleeve inside out. Yes, inside out. Yes, inside out, the two sleeves. Now the fabric, you can start putting your sleeve on any part of the armhole, be it left or right. There's no particular pattern to fixing your sleeve. You can start from any of the armholes, be it side of the dresses, be it left or the right. Okay, so now we'll turn our fabric back in. Yes, our garment back in, our top back in, and then we'll lay it down, carry the sleeve. You see that part, the sewing allowance that we have there, you face it to the back. You look for the back. Yes, you face it to the back, to the back. Yes, please, it's important. So you look for the yes, and you also face it to the back. So both sewing allowances, they are being faced towards the back of the fabric. Why? It makes for the garment to be balanced on the body. Okay, even when pressing your side sewing allowances, please press to the back of the body. So now on the sleeve, we're going back of the garment. Now we're going ahead to notch the middle of the sleeve, and we take that notch portion and flip the garment and place it evenly on the joining line at the shoulder. Yes, so pin, and now you go ahead to pin the sleeve to the armhole of the garment evenly. While pinning, balancing and arranging all the fabric pieces to align. None should be higher than anyone. They should all be balanced. Okay. If you sew your sleeve wonky, whenever you're done sewing your sleeve and it's not well sewn, it's going to show through the garment. So take your time. You know, pin up your sleeves to meet the armhole. Then you get to see if there are any excesses, and then you can work on that, or if there are any shortages either on the sleeve or on the garment itself. So please go ahead. It may look as if it's taking your time, but it's worth it at the end of the day. Okay, so when you're done pinning, you can now go ahead to sew the sleeve. We are also sewing the sleeve with a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. No matter the sewing allowance you leave on the side of your bodies of your dress, your blouse, your shirts, the sleeve allowance is always, in fact, sometimes it's 0.25, and most times, it's anywhere from 0.25 inches to 1/2 inch. Okay, so now I'm sewing with 1/2 inch, and I'm sewing round, sewing my sleeve round. Yes, always back stitch whenever you start at any point in time. Whenever sewing your garments, whenever you start, you always back stitch. That stops your stitch from losing. Okay, so now I'm going ahead to sew the garment round, the sleeve round. Yes, removing the pins as I go along, taking my time, gently turning the fabric as I go along. It may look stressful at first. A lot of people do not like to sew sleeves. That is stressful, but no, just take your time to pin it in. Once you do that initial step of pinning the sleeve into the armhole, the remaining steps are kind of like, not kind of, it's very easy to just go ahead with. Okay, so as you're sewing along, please do not sew on your pins. It can spoil your machine needle and also the machine plates. Okay, the needle pleats. So remove your pins as you sew along. Please cut your threads. Always cut your thread to the bottom. Do not have your garments, your projects having threads hanging up and down everywhere. It's not neat. So yeah, you see how nice and balanced that is. So we're going to go ahead to do the same thing for the other sleeve, pinning and then taking your time to sew with 1/2 inch. So yeah, that's been done off camera. So we're going ahead to now the point I'm holding. I was trying to put in a button um what they call it, a slot for a buttonhole, and it came off while I was sewing it, so I'm just re-sewing that down. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead to put a button off camera, so I'm just pinning that point so that the garment, I can hold up the garment to show you how neat and well done we are. Almost done. So the only thing left is our bottom. Yes, so I always start with the back whenever hemming, no matter what, gown, trousers, blouses. I always start with the back so that your start and finish lines will end at the back. It won't show through on the front piece of the garments. So if you have a serger, go ahead and serge with the bottom ones, and then sew with 1 inch. Now take notes, the side hem sewing allowance, I'm facing it to the back. Take note, it makes the garments lay flat on your body. Please like and subscribe, thank you. And if you notice, I also made the allowance, the lining inside, to be 2 inches shorter than the garment. If you want to use your lining to turn the fabric, the blouse or the gown, whatever it is you're doing, then you go ahead to cut the lining short with just 1 inch. But for me, since I'm not turning the fabric, the blouse with the lining, I cut the lining 2 inches shorter than the actual fabric so that it doesn't show through the front. So yes, this is me going ahead to double fold the hemming, the blouse hemming, and yeah, and there I am cutting it. So yes, always endeavor to cut your thread to the very roots. Please do like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Sewing made easy, easy breezy, no headache, so interesting. So please go ahead to press your garment at this point and rock it, Viola. Thank you so much. Bye bye.